630 CHED presents The Announcers. Opinion, personality, passion. The Announcers on 630 CHED, Edmonton's breaking news and conversation station.
Thanks for tuning into The Announcers. My name is Ryan Jespersen, joined by my good friends Jalen and Andrew Grose. How are the two of you?
Good, buddy.
I've just never been better, honestly, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Never in your whole life?
Never. No, this is the best day of my life.
How come?
Oh, just every day is the best day of my life. It's always a little better than yesterday, and there's the optimism of tomorrow.
Are you the type that wakes up sort of cheery and sunny sky all the time?
No, that is in no way true. No, that is absolutely inaccurate.
Don't comedians have to have kind of a cynicism?
Do you know any comedians other than me?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay,
I know tons
great.
of them.
Have you ever? Really?
Yeah.
Why have we never discussed that?
I don't know, because
I could tell you stories about each and every one of them. I find comedians to share one common thread, too, in fact. A dysfunction in the past somewhere that drives them to want people's approval. And two, miserable. Miserable at their core.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you wake up in the morning? Do you wake up? Jalen, you strike me as someone that's up at like 4:30, walking the dogs. No?
No, I'll roll out of bed and wander downstairs to find a cup of coffee and then slowly shake off the groggies, and it's just don't talk to me.
So you're a last possible minute kind of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, sleep as long as you can. Every week here on The Announcers, we have an opportunity to go, 23, 24 minutes commercial free to talk about something or revisit a topic or touch on something we may not have had a chance to get to through the week that really caught our attention. And I was thinking today, maybe we could touch on a few stories in the news that really got strong audience reactions. I'll be honest, on Friday morning, when we welcomed Sylvie Chevery to the program, I didn't think it was going to blow up like it did. A mom out of Beaumont, she's a marketing expert in her own right. That's what she does for work, also a restaurateur. They have a 2-year-old daughter who really wanted a fire truck bed. They went onto the Toys R Us website. The girl picked out the bed, and then Sylvia noticed that it says any young boy will feel like a hero in this fire truck bed. She thought, well, come on, that's no good. So she contacted Toys R Us. The great part about the story is within 48 hours, this gigantic toy company responded to her, said, you know what, you're right, thanks for the heads up. And they had the website changed. So I brought her on the show because I thought it was a great news story.
Sure.
And then people just blew up. They said that we've jumped the shark on political correctness. The guest is an idiot, and so is the host.
So it was your show, you said?
It was your show.
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to clarify it wasn't yours.
I think
that's
we had a couple of those this week, too.
Yeah,
so
we
okay.
definitely did. So the problem is, why is the host an idiot?
I was saying, people talk about the gender-biased marketing or gender-specific marketing. And, of course, this goes bigger. I mean, Chapters all the time around the holidays has, gifts for her, gifts for him. Yeah. People take issue with that as well.
I think people need to find something else to get all worked up about. Like, really, enough. I like what Toys R Us did, and the mom said, okay, little girls can be firefighters too. If they want a firefighter bed, that's really, really cool. They changed it. Okay. I just, I like that idea, but I do worry about getting to the point where we're so gender neutral that we can't even, you can't wear pink, can't wear blue, can't do whatever. Enough.
Do you know what's interesting? Because oftentimes when you have a topic like this, you end up saying, the greater issue is this. But in this case, it's the opposite. That's an oversight on the part of Toys R Us, an oversight that was brought to their attention, that they thought, oh, yeah, okay,
They changed it?
yeah. That's probably been the description of that bed since the day that bed was available
Probably
online.
20 years ago.
Sure. And they thought, oh, you know what? We've never changed that. We can change that. No problem at all. That should be the end of the story, but it goes the opposite way. I played with Barbie dolls when I was a child. Nobody ever marketed to boys. My sister had Barbie dolls, and I enjoyed playing with them. So my mother never got on the phone or never phoned Mattel and said, how dare you say that Barbie dolls are for girls? My son plays with them. I just played with them. I don't understand. Again, here we go with let's go all the way to the opposite side. Let's swing the pendulum to the opposite side and say, all websites must be neutral, gender neutral, and if they're not, then let's swing it back the other way and boycott Toys R Us. And then if somebody actually wants that, let's swing it back the other way and say that they're ruining the country with political correctness. Everybody needs to relax. If your daughter wants a fireman's bed, fire person's bed? I don't even know anymore. You know what? We're becoming paralyzed. We're becoming paralyzed. Your daughter wants that bed, buy her the bed. You know, and I don't blame the mother at all. I don't think she's an idiot. She noticed an oversight on the website, pointed it out to the company, and they corrected it.
I think the mom's pretty astute, quite frankly, which is why I wanted to welcome her to the show.
Yeah.
What I was surprised at was the outcry of people who thought that she had no leg to stand on. People saying, you know what? Women can't be firefighters. They're too small. You see where I'm going with this?
But they can sleep in that bed, right? I mean, they can fit in the bed, can't they?
I got a message from one guy who said, I love to cook, and so my sons watched me. And as the two boys were growing up, we bought them an easy bake oven because they wanted to play along. He says they're both pipe fitters now, but what they wanted as kids, we let them have. The story goes further. Sylvia told me she was clicking around on the Toys R Us website. She also found another play set, a small stroller, a small high chair, and a couple other household items. No vacuum, or it may have really blown up. But the toy set is called Just Like Mom. Has your opinion changed now?
1950.
Right?
Wait a second. No. The mother in my house vacuums.
In your house.
Yeah. So we have to market to everybody, or we market to nobody?
But couldn't it be...
But that's a stereotype. That becomes a
But wait a
stereotype
second.
of...
If I'm a little boy and my mother vacuums, don't I vacuum just like mom?
Sure. But why don't you call it Just Like My Parents?
Just like my parents, not just like mom.
Does Dad never
Well,
vacuum
that
in
would
any
confuse
household?
my children. I'll tell you that right now. I don't even know where we keep the vacuum. So we have to pretend. We have to pretend that I vacuum as much as my mom. Or my mom. That was Freudian. We have to pretend that I vacuum as much as my wife. Is that right?
Well, I don't know. Do we have to pretend like only moms vacuum?
Well, we're not pretending. Wouldn't you say that probably more moms vacuum than dads, or is that not true?
I don't know. I mean, in our household, the allocation of duties, honestly, truthfully speaking, we have hardwood, so nobody vacuums. But the point is we share the household duties, and that's kind of how it works. Here's the thing. I mean, the reason why this is on my radar is because last Christmas, I got into a spirited debate with my wife when we were walking through Chapters, and we saw the gifts for her and gifts for him racks. And on the gifts for her were like cookbooks and gardening books and design books, and gifts for him were like, the history of auto racing and, the history of sports trivia and all these kinds of things. And she was like, that's BS. And I was like, what's the big deal? Give me a break. They're trying to make shopping easier for people. But the more that we talked about it, the more that I realized that, there are guys that like to bake and there are girls that love hockey trivia. I just don't know if the whole face of marketing has to change or not. Does it? I mean, this is why we have these conversations.
So there should be a Just for It table, I guess.
Just for you people.
Because I think there's no restrictions. A guy can go to the Just for Her table. I mean, you don't have to show your card or anything.
Prove it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't want to become so sanitized and so neutral that we can't function anymore. So if I have an interest in cooking, which by the way I don't, I can still buy from that table. I can still get a cookbook, right? But I can't buy my wife a cookbook. Is that right? Now, and I'm asking sincerely, so I can't buy...
Well, you asked me not too long ago if it would be inappropriate to get Carol a blender for her birthday.
Right, but it was a really good blender.
But that's like the most stereotypical gift of all time.
And part of the reason
you're
I wanted to do it.
You're a comedian. That's why you're doing it.
I was just trying to come up with a new 5 minutes.
You like to poke the angry bear every once in a while. That's the problem.
If I have never cooked in my house, and I'm not saying that I'm lazy and don't contribute to the household or that we don't split duties. We do. And my wife would argue that they're not 50-50, but I see them as roughly 50-50. But among my duties is not cooking. Why is it incredibly bad for me to just say out loud that my wife does the cooking and my wife does the vacuuming?
It's interesting.
But if I were to say that in the afternoon news, we'd start getting calls right away.
No, unless you said, I think every wife should do the cooking, right? I mean, you're just telling us about your family structure, aren't you?
Yeah, and we had this conversation a while back because when we kind of disagreed on it. In my house, we share the duties, right? Emptying the dishwasher, washing, vacuuming, whatever. We share them. There's some that I don't like doing, and so my husband will do more. I joke at time and say, no, that's a blue job, not a pink job, right? Look at the colors, right?
Well, I'm offended by that.
But...
the thing is, she's blue and he's pink.
Oh, all right.
They're very
totally
progressive.
Makes sense. Those are beige duties.
Yeah. But you also see it. You're a little bit older than I am, and I say that but I'm saying, but
She's going to bring up my weight next.
No. But you have a little bit more traditional view on your family.
Yes,
You're the
but
man.
my wife doesn't.
Your wife, yeah, she doesn't. But I'm the man. I bring home the money.
Oh no!
lot
Don't
of
put
the
those
money.
words in my mouth. Do not.
No,
put,
you do, and you take care of to provide that security,
Sure.
the financial support. You've told me that straight out.
Well, I thought that was just between you and I.
No, it was
but
on
sure.
the radio. It
Oh,
was on
it?
the
All right.
radio. Yeah, but that was your thing.
My
That
role.
was your role of doing that, and you were you're fine with that, and it works in your family and that sort of thing. But tradition, I think now, and I had asked him, I said, well, what if Carol made more money than you? Would you be okay with
Oh,
that?
I'd be totally okay with that. That'd be great. Why are you skeptical? I would love that. Are you kidding me? If we could put the kids to work and put that towards the house too, that'd be fabulous. I
Jay
absolutely
Lindell,
have no problem.
that's a big thing for a lot of families, and statistically, it's been proven that it's tough for a lot of guys to be in a relationship where the girl makes more money or the girl's taller.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I have been in those relationships where I make more money and I'm taller, right? And it's, well, they've not quite worked out.
your characterization of me is wrong on that. My wife made more money than me for years when I started out in comedy. But it was a means to an end, right?
I'm talking about now, though.
I would honestly love that. Yeah,
Let me
no,
say, for me, my journey on this in sort of processing things, and I use that word strategically because in many areas where I have a strong conviction, and this is not one of them, it's been a journey. It's been coming to terms with establishing things. Sometimes an issue will touch home to you a little bit more, and then that influences your perspective as well. We've all seen the advertising from the 1950s encouraging women to, put on something nice before he gets home and meet him at the door with a cocktail because he's worked hard. And we understand that we need,
Times have changed.
Times have changed and we move past that messaging. But then we also get to a point, and like I said, I stand with Sylvia Chevry on this one. I think it's great that any toddler can feel like a hero. I work with someone in my other job with the Edmonton Oilers. Her name is Sinead, and she's a firefighter in the city of Leduc, and I would defy anyone to tell her that she doesn't belong there. So I agree with the point Sylvia's making. But I've also found myself involved in other social justice conversations where I've been piled upon by people of special interest groups. Feminist Edmonton is one, and I'll hold them accountable right now on the airwaves. And they've piled on me after years of support because I've not been, and these are my words, not theirs, extreme enough. And it gets to the point where I have voluntarily alienated myself from that group because I said, you lack the basic common sense to understand where common sense lies on the spectrum, to understand the battles worth fighting, and to understand your realistic base of support. And sometimes the pendulum does swing too far.
That's really interesting because tying that thought with when we put together this year's Edmonton Comedy Festival, and we hire more female comedians than any other festival proportionately.
On purpose?
On purpose. And we put together one show that's specifically all women, 6 or 7 headline acts, to demonstrate just how strong these women are. And the show's for women only that benefits Empower You, which is a United Way undertaking to help women who are in financial trouble. And in our description of the show this year, and it was an old description that I think we've just copied and pasted each year and just substituted the names of the comics, the last line was, improving once again that women truly are funny. And a group took quite offense to that we would have to prove that women are funny, or that we would have to have a separate show just for women, that they couldn't be treated equally. And these are all groups of people, individuals who are not in my profession. And in my profession, talk to any female comic and they will tell you that audiences are wonderfully surprised that they're funny when they're funny. Because there's a reputation that female comics are not as funny as male comics. And that's a real thing. So we're trying to address that, and we're trying to change that, and we're getting criticized. We had to go back and quickly change the description and take that line out of there. And it saddened me that we had to do that because the very people we're trying to help are mad at us for trying to help. And it is just wrong.
We can broaden this conversation. Prime Minister Trudeau just reminded us all it's 2015, and that's why his federal cabinet has gender equality. Some people, and I think they've got a great point, are saying, what would have been cooler is if he would have done what he did, but not said anything about it.
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
spun it as, hey, look at us, equal women. I've never heard you say before that you have more female comics than any other comedy festival, and I respect that. Because for me, one of the biggest
Right.
issues is you want to talk about, say, for example, a police force. People call it, people can call it, spin it as many different ways, but it's been known as affirmative action down in the United States. People can talk about gender-based hiring, whatever the case may be. But a police force may say to better reflect society, or for whatever reason, we want to recruit more women or more visible minorities, more First Nations members to the force. Now, to me, if you have a group from which you can select a pool of potential employees, and among that pool, there are women that are qualified, First Nations that are qualified, visible minorities that are qualified, go for it. I don't have much of a leg to stand on as a white male coming from a privileged background when it comes to that. But if you're hiring women to a police force just because they're women and they can't complete the task, or if you're hiring a First Nations individual just because they're First Nations, not because they're properly equipped to be a police officer, that's when I have a problem with it too.
And I have a problem with it as well, and that might not sit well with some of
It's not an easy thing to say on the radio, is it?
But I don't want someone hired just because they have different parts than someone else, or they have a different skin color. I want them hired because they are the best person for the job. I do not believe there should be, if these are the physical, let's say firefighting or police officer, this is the physical requirement. It should be the physical requirement all the way across the board. That's how I feel. And I have said that all along, and I will continue to say that.
But if she can carry me down a ladder
Absolutely.
when the building's burning,
Absolutely.
100%. And I'll tell you, when police are responding to, say, for example, a domestic violence call where a woman has been the victim, sometimes having a female police officer there is going to be even more of an asset to the police force than it would be to have a properly equipped male.
The flaw in the argument when it comes to equal opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, is that you say, okay, so we had 30 applicants for something. We want to have 5 women, 5 men. And then as the argument, as you just said, well, to get 5 women, we're going to have to hire one person who isn't as qualified as one of the men who's not going to get the position, right? That just means you have to look harder. And I agree with you. You don't have to make a big deal about it that, hey, we went out of our way to do this. But that means you have to look harder. For me to hire 7 female headliners when 80% of the comedians out there are male, it means I have to look harder. I have to look farther. I have to talk to more agents. I have to look at more video. But I guarantee you the 7 women that I bring in every year are as good as or better than the 23 males that I bring in every year as well. But I don't make a big deal about it. You have to look harder. So I have a problem with saying that this is our pool for whatever it is, firemen, policemen, whatever it is. And based on this pool, we're going to take these 5 women or these 10 women. I say if you want to hire women and you can't find a woman that's as qualified as a man, look harder. Open it up. Encourage people to want the job. Do something. But you have to find more qualified people. You don't settle on a woman because she's a woman. You don't settle on a First Nations because he or she is First Nations. You look harder and encourage them to apply for the job.
I just think when you trumpet the initiatives, it ultimately detracts from the impact these people should experience in the first place. I mean, if you're graduating the next class of EPS officers and they've said, hey, we've made real efforts to reach out to women here and there's way more women, how do you think the women are going to feel that are standing there? No. What you do is you introduce this class of police officers.
And this is the class
let
of police
commentators,
yes.
let people notice
Yes.
what they'll notice.
Exactly.
Yes.
People aren't idiots.
Because
People will
otherwise
pick it out.
It's just backslapping. It's just, giving yourself,
It just
a high
kind of
five.
takes away from the whole movement in the
exactly.
first place.
Exactly.
Now, what got this conversation started was talk on advertising and marketing, and with apologies, because I feel like the story is almost set to die, and I'd like to let it die and bury it. And you know where I'm going with this,
we're not
Jalen.
going to this cup, are we?
The Starbucks cups. Everybody's up in arms. The coffee giant is attacking Christmas by going with solid red cups this season as opposed to the symbols like Santa and the tree and gifts.
Reindeer and penguins.
The thing that blows my mind is that the community, and with apologies, I'm not attacking believers, but the Christian community for ages has taken issue with the fact that gifts and Santa and reindeer have become the symbols of Christmas. That's been their ultimate grating factor. They can't handle the fact that Santa represents Christmas. But now that Santa's off the cups, now it's an attack on the very institution they seek to protect.
I am against these cups. And I am not against these cups because I think we've attacked Christianity. I'm against these cups because I like Christmas. And let's not forget that Santa Claus was the invention of the Coca-Cola company. So it really has nothing to do with Christianity. Google that. Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus.
Well, they invented the portrayal of him because, of course, Santa's been around forever.
We see him in the red suit and the beard. I'm against the fact that I love Christmas, and I love when that cup comes out, and I love when the lights go up, and I just love Christmas. It has nothing to do, perfectly honest with you.
Come on, you're being devil's advocate right now.
No, we got into this on Thursday.
This is how you really feel?
I like Christmas.
What's wrong with red?
Yeah,
They've got red cups.
It's red. Thank you, Ryan.
No,
it is
listen.
still Christmas because the original cups are cream, and they kept them they turned them to red. Red is a Christmas color at this time of year.
See, both of you guys are doing it again. I'm not going to boycott Starbucks. I'm not going to turn the afternoon news into some kind of a forum for a boycott against them. I'm not going to try and rally the troops. I'm just telling you I'm disappointed, and then I moved on. It took about 60 seconds. Now, our listeners kept me on it for a good hour, but I'm not like, oh my God, I can't function anymore. Starbucks has changed the color of their cups. I'm just saying, oh, that's a shame.
But it's still Christmassy as
Hey,
far
listen,
as I'm
if my
concerned.
neighbor across the street...
It is still Christmassy.
Look,
they haven't taken the Christmas out of
not
anything.
Christmassy.
It's red.
Oh, yeah, so fire trucks are Christmassy then all year long. But here's the thing. If my neighbor across the street doesn't put up his lights this year, I'm not going to try and organize a group to go on over there and tell him he has to. I'm just saying... Stan didn't put up his lights this year.
I guess he's attacking Christmas, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
But I don't think he's attacking Christmas. I just think it's like, that's too bad. I like those cups. Don't you? Do you like Christmas?
I love Christmas.
Well, then what's wrong with you? Don't you like don't you like seeing a snowflake on the cup?
I would not have even noticed. And if I went into Starbucks to grab my annual gingerbread latte, I'd like to get one a year when I'm out Christmas shopping because they're fabulous.
Sure.
Or the peppermint mocha, also a solid drink. I would not have even noticed as I heard the festive music and the store decor everywhere and the ribbons and the gift displays and the smell of that egg, whatever the case may be, whatever I'm drinking. I would never have noticed that there weren't graphics on the
It
cup.
doesn't make me feel more or less
that's you, though,
in
but
Christmas.
I get to feel
Christmas
the way
feeling.
I get to feel. If you went into that same mall and they weren't playing Christmas music, if there was no Santa Claus with a lineup for children, would you think, that's too bad?
It's just a cup.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised by Starbucks. I feel the same way.
A cup.
I suppose, Andrew, if they hadn't have changed the cup design at all and they were still going with the standard white and green with the Starbucks siren on it, then maybe I'd feel like, you might have had more of a point, but we're talking solid red market. I mean, I just think, to me, the whole conversation was just one big joke. I mean, I couldn't even believe that it was a big conversation.
And Starbucks made it a bit of a joke because when Starbucks stood up and said, no, wait a second, the whole idea was that you can draw your own picture on the cup. If I may speak on behalf of the world, sit down, Starbucks. That's the dumbest defense I ever heard in my life.
Go home.
Just sit down.
Have you heard that everybody's giving their name Merry Christmas now to the barista, so they have to write it on the cup?
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not doing any of that. But if I walked into the mall and there was no decorations, if I went to a store and they didn't have ideas for stocking stuffers, if it was completely generically washed clean, I'd be like, isn't that a shame?
But it's not. It's red.
But red is not Christmas. That's a weak argument.
As you can clearly see, we have solved this issue. My thanks to Andrew Grose and Jalen Nye for sitting in with us. Of course, you can catch these two every weekday from 2 to 6 on the afternoon news. You can catch me on air on 6:30 CHED from 9 to noon. Thanks for tuning in.